So Darren came up with some concepts really with the idea of keeping focused on the goals, and really had put down some ideas of looking at participation, education, and evaluation. Encouraging players to play goal, obviously getting young players to experience the position, and we'll talk in a second here about some ideas that Darren has and I have about how we're going to do some of those things. Certainly helping in the education realm with helping the goalies, coaches, and parents, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that are going on in the education ranks. And then obviously identifying through evaluation and helping to track some of the top goalies. I think one of the feedbacks that Darren had from last year was that he attracted a lot of really young goalies to this program, which was great. But I think he also wanted to work at bringing in some of the higher end goalies as well and getting them more engaged in this to help grow that side of it as well. And so we're going to do a couple things this year that I think are exciting and will help to grow that side of it.
Well, we're calling them the Maha Goalie Workshops, and maybe that's an old-fashioned term, but part of the thought process behind it is maybe a little old-fashioned to teach the new trends in goaltending, and it's to have everybody out there, every age and skill level, and the coaches was a big part of it, just to kind of create the culture, the goalie community, and talk about what the kids want to learn, answer questions about what they see on TV, what Peter Mrazek and Jimmy Howard are doing, trying to introduce them to techniques that are out there, always working on the fundamentals, but also maybe some of the newer trends in goaltending, and have them try some things and see if it works for them. Again, it's something that I've thought about for a long time, and we wanted to try it, and we think so far it's been pretty successful. It's our fifth one. We've had as many as 30 goalies at one time. Today it looks like it might be a little bit less, but that happens because everybody's playing. It is the hockey season. But it's been really important, again, to try to build that culture, kind of a central area for information, putting these video clips on the Maha website, distributing drills, drill sets for the coaches, and really getting to the coaches to let them understand, you might not know goaltending, but here's how you can run your practices without thinking that you have to just carve out time for them, because you really don't. You just have to think about your drills and think about some of the skills that the goalies can get out of those same drills. It's a USA Hockey initiative. Phil Auster is heading it up for USA Hockey, and the big overarching goal is to have more kids play goal. But then the slogan is 51 in 30, which means they want to have 51% of the minutes played by NHL goaltenders by the year 2030 to be U.S.-born goaltenders. So it's aggressive, but it's right now it's around 21%. So that's a 9% growth in 14, 15 years. So that's the overarching target. But more realistically, it's at the grassroots level, is to get more kids engaged in playing the position of goaltender. It is. It's an honor, and I have a lot of fun getting on the ice and talking to the coaches and seeing the kids and seeing them try things and then finally get something. That's always been a big motivator for me. Yeah, they've seemed to enjoy it. I mean, like I said, the turnout, there's been a lot of people that have come for multiple sessions, so that's always a good sign. But again, the second half of this season, it won't just be itself. It will start moving around and going to associations week by week, so working with specific associations. This was just to kind of kick it off. We did 3 in October, and then a couple of specialty ones, one girls only one. And we'll do 3 in November, 3 in December, and then we'll hit the road and take it around the state.
Right now, there was a sheet going around that talks about one of the, I think, comments or evaluations that Darren got from this program last year is that it needs to move around. This program pretty much ran out of Southfield rink last year, and Darren and I both agree that in order to make this successful, we're going to have to move this around to different associations throughout the state. And so there is somebody started a notepad going around. For any of you that are interested in having your association get involved with us, these typically are running on a Saturday or Sunday morning, but we would certainly welcome the opportunity to be able to team up with your association to bring it to your rink and to bring it to your area so we could get more goalies involved. So I've already talked to a few associations here today and that have expressed interest. Certainly see me, or I'll have Darren and my contact information here, and reach out to us as far as getting that on board. We haven't scheduled the dates and times yet, of course, because we're trying to coordinate that with the associations and the rinks, but that'll be coming out shortly here as we continue to evolve this and getting it out to various rinks and associations. Is that a fair statement? I would think everybody would agree that this really needs to be kind of spread around, and I think that's where Darren would say it fell a little short last year. The other things that Darren and I are working on is we're continuing to grow the game through the Maha Goalie program through using social media and Twitter and Snapchat and things like that. So we're going to be working pretty heavily with the technology department or the technology group that's coming together and being able to get that out there. And the other thing that I would like to do, and Darren and I have talked about this, is approach it as having an actual formal standing committee here at the Maha level for goaltending, so that there's an actual committee of like-minded people that get together either at summer or winter meetings and be able to, you know, talk about issues and concerns and how we can help grow and attract young people to the game. One of the ideas that's being approached right now and being worked on, and this is kind of nice to have this partnership with Darren. Darren, as you probably know, is heading up a lot of the responsibilities at the new arena. He's responsible for a lot of the programming that's going to be going on there, so having him on board is great. And one of the things that Darren is, an idea that he's come up with that I think could be really clever, and we'll see if it'll work, is we're currently putting together a program called Pond Hockey with the Red Wings. And what this will be is at the new arena, new Little Caesars Arena, twice a month we'll be holding these programs to attract the young players to come there and basically, for all intents and purposes, play some shinny pond hockey with us and some former Red Wing alumni and things like that to attract them there. The rub is that if the kids come there to skate, obviously we're not going to charge them or anything, it's going to be kind of a fun environment. We're going to use the quick change gear. In order for the kids to participate, they have to get a net. They have to go in and experience it. So it's kind of the gig. You come here, you skate with the Red Wings, you get to have some fun, but part of that gig is you got to jump into the net for some period of time. So again, this is geared more towards, say, mites and squirts and some younger players to get involved and have fun, but this is one way Darren and I have thought that maybe this, we don't know if this is going to work or not, but this is an idea. Okay, so we're going to try it, see if we can get kids to come down there, experience the new rink, experience being on the ice with some former Red Wings and so forth, and try to gin up some interest in the position by getting some kids involved. We'll also do things like giveaways. We'll have things like raffling off goalie sticks and helmets and GoPro cameras and things of that nature. We'll do some raffles where those kids are going to be able to enter to meet an NHL goalie and spend some time with them. So we'll have event jerseys and things like that and try to make it a really fun environment to try to attract potential goalies. So I think this is going to be a really cool concept and idea. We'll see if it works or not. I know kids are busy during the season and whatnot, but I think having the Red Wings behind us on this and backing it, getting some former players out there will attract some young kids to come down there and parents and get excited about it. So any feedback on that? Positive, negative, up, down? I think it sounds like a pretty cool idea. So Darren's put his hat on this. I think he's dedicated to it, to working with the new arena down there to get this up and rolling and see what we can do with it. Going back to this, so that's kind of on the participation side. On the education for goalies, coaches, and parents, we'll continue to be building workshops at the district and association levels. That's something that if you approach me afterwards, certainly if you're interested in us coming and doing a workshop at your place, maybe in conjunction with that Saturday morning skate, we also stick around and do some training for coaches, training for the goalies, maybe in a classroom setting. That's something that we're talking about doing again to gin up more interest and so forth. There will be a web-based goalie hotline, if you will, and developing sort of a goalie-specific blog where goalies and parents alike can blog in and ask questions of goalie experts. Again, asking for your participation if you're in the goalie circles and you want to get involved with us either on the committee and or get involved with us in answering some of those questions and reaching out to people on those blogs, that would be great. We'll continue and currently are continuing to build a goalie resource section on the MAHA website. When you deal with a lot of younger parents that are newer goalies in the position, they have a lot of questions about this position. And typically, when I go into a pro shop or something like that, I usually see a parent dragging that kid away from the goalie equipment by his ear because they're like, don't even go there, So we're trying to ease some of the anxiety behind being a goalie parent and getting your son or daughter involved in it. So the more resources we can reach out to them. We're also working on a program to build the 5130 program and placing banners at the rink. The 5130 program is an initiative that's put out by USA Hockey where they're looking to have 51 minutes of playing time at the NHL level by the year 2030. So currently it's around 19, 20 minutes that U.S. goalies, U.S.-born goalies are playing at the NHL level. So this is a goal, a pretty lofty goal, pretty high-reaching goal, but it's certainly doable to try to drive those ranks at the higher levels to get more U.S.-born goalies. I think we've done a really good job over the last decade and a half or two of getting U.S. goalies to the highest levels, junior, collegiate, pro, and so forth. We still have a lot of work to do, but initiatives like this are ones that help it. We're also working on programs to get more promotional material out to area pro shops, particularly ones that are heavy in goaltending equipment, so that people can see this promotional material and get more interest involved. One of the things that I would ask associations to do in coordinating this is we'd like to see certainly a goalie MAHA presence on your association website. So things like putting up the 5130 type of banners on your website to have people ask questions when they go to your association websites, and looking at that type of stuff. Being able to link to various YouTube videos and things off your website about goalies, or have a goalie section on your website so you can continue to generate interest in the position. In the evaluation side, identifying and tracking top goalies by age group, provide a season-long game report. One of the things that Darren was working on with me is I do all of the goalie selection for District 4's MAHA Selects program, and we're currently working on a formal written program for each one of those goalies that attend that program. So again, being able to give more feedback to parents and players in that MAHA Selects program is pretty critical. One of the things that we're talking about, and for anybody that's in the room that's interested in this, being in the goalie business for 26 years, my issue really isn't getting goalies to come out to camps and clinics or to events like this. A lot of times for me, it's trying to get quality shooters to come out. And one of the things that Darren and I have been talking about is, would it make sense for us to team up with an organization that does more hockey skills clinics and team up with the goalie clinics so that we can have a pool of shooters to come to these various events. It's great when you show up and there's 30 goalies, but if you don't have any shooters there, it makes it pretty tough to run the drills and get a lot of the skill sets you want to try to approach and work on. So if any of you are interested in talking about that, yeah.
So on that note, there's a goalie camp in town next week. They pay the shooters.
Right.
So we pay referees. I think if you paid kids to be shooters, you get a better turnout.
Yeah, and it's interesting because 10, 15 years ago when I did this, shooters came out pretty much as volunteers, and kids love having the extra ice time. Now it's, you're right. I often have to pull out the checkbook to get kids to even come out and shoot and things of that nature. So, but you do get into budgetary issues where, where do you draw the line on who's getting paid and who's not getting paid? But I'm with you. If you bring out an organization that's willing to pool those kids to work on, shooting techniques and stick handling, shooting skills and things of that nature, there's going to have to probably be some compensation involved in this program to get people to show up, particularly when you're talking about running these on a Saturday or Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, that during the season, that's tough to do sometimes. A lot of people are busy and with their own schedules and games and practices and whatnot, so it does create some challenges, and I think that's where Darren realized last year that typically this starts out very strong. In September, you know, you get a lot of interest by the time November, December, January rolls around. Everybody's so busy that it's tough to get to these events. So I think by teaming up and building some partnerships with some other organizations, I think we're going to be able to pull that off. There's been some preliminary discussion on doing, running, and this is another idea that Darren and I are floating around, and is that we would actually start running top-tier goalie evaluation camps and sort of a goalie evaluation day, maybe even in a combine type of setting. Don't misunderstand me. I mean, we want to try to certainly attract the younger goalies. I mean, the future of this whole hockey business really centers around that we all have a vested interest in making sure we have a goalie pool out there. As I've said for a long time, this business or hockey or game of hockey becomes really unfun very quickly if you don't have goalies and you don't have refs. I mean, think about yourself. You show up at the rink and there's no goalie or there's no ref. Everybody kind of stares at each other and looks around. Now what are we going to do? You know. So we all have a vested interest in trying to develop the goalie circles as well as the reffing circles, because I'm a coach too, and I don't like when refs don't show up or whatever. But certainly it's no fun when goalies aren't there. So so we really need to continue to build the younger pool of goalies and keep them vested in this, and making sure that we're getting to those parents and educating them and breaking down some of the kind of stereotypes of, obviously everybody knows it's an expensive position. They know that there's literally parents I've talked to over the year that don't want their kids to become goalies because of the focus and the spotlight on them and things of that nature, and they steer away from it. And I get all that, but I wonder if we lose some people sometimes. In any event, on the other end of that spectrum, Darren wants to also continue to, as well as myself, look at developing the higher end goalies as well, the guys at the top level, because they, believe it or not, sort of set that benchmark, and other younger kids emulate them, watch them, see them. So there is a trickle down effect, I guess, if you will, of watching those older goalies, and especially with having USA Hockey right in our backyard in Plymouth. It's a great opportunity for those kids to get involved. One of the things we talked about, I don't remember if I'm sure some of you have goalie backgrounds, but I know that when I was a kid, when you got a shutout as a goalie, it was always a big deal as a young kid. I'm sure anyone who played goalie would attest to that. When I was a kid, we used to have a program called the Zero Club. I don't know if many of you remember this, but you used to wear those patches with pride on your jacket. And I think to some degree, personally, I think we got away from that a little bit, that we don't really celebrate the hat tricks and the playmakers and the Zero Clubs anymore. And so I think using some social media websites to be able to have on Snapchat a Zero Club, you've seen this, your kids use Snapchat. I have 5 children, so I'm like a Snapchat guy. So, be able to pull that banner in if a kid gets a shutout in that game, to be able to snap himself a picture, get it out to his buddies and friends that he got a shutout or a hat trick or a playmaker. I think we need to we need to get back to some of that. I think it's an idea to help promote some social media, get kids, we're, as an organization, that's sort of our customer that we're talking to as a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old that can, Snapchat out with some buddies and friends about his or her successes. So something we're working on with the technology group to see if those things can get pulled off. Also, in conjunction with doing evaluation, there's over the course of the last decade, just some really quality software development tools for goalies out there, all the way from tracking to certainly GoPros and things of that, and some of the technology to be able to dial in to the analytics of goaltending is huge. So being able to promote some of those goalie-specific softwares to parents and coaches and goalies alike is pretty critical. The technology is great out there today to be able to do this. And for example, like even developing a Maha goalie stats app for parents. I'm astonished sometimes what parents will do to track their kids' shots on nets and saves and things like that. They build spreadsheets, they build all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's actually pretty cool to get involved in their sons and daughters' careers, so it's pretty neat stuff. With that, we're really looking for people power. One of the goals, this was really not supposed to be like a formal presentation by Darren today, but it was really more of trying to interact with and get more engagement and more involvement with associations to get on board. So if you're interested in getting on the goalie committee here at the Maha level as we formulate this, get some, maybe a smaller group of people in a like-minded room together and start to put our heads together with even more ideas and put some of these actions to, ideas to action would be great. In addition, I'll end with the partnering of hockey skills and seeing if there's anybody here that has contacts with that that's interested in getting involved in that type of a program. I have contact people that have expressed some interest in it. We'll see if that's where we're at with it.
Well, we're trying to roll out what USA Hockey has adopted, taking what they did for the skating positions with the ADM and applying it to the goaltending position. Phil O'Sear is overseeing it nationwide. With Phil involved, anything I can do to help here in Michigan, I was all for it. Well, in a non-traditional hockey market like Georgia, what you were trying to do is get kids attracted to the game. Here, we're trying to make sure we attract kids to the position of goaltending. So from that standpoint, it's the same. What's different as they move through the ranks, many more opportunities competitively here in Michigan. We want to make sure that we're servicing all of them, right from the goalie coach who's a first-timer at the association level. Well, you want to have as many kids attracted to the position, embracing the position of goal as possible. You deepen the pool, and then when you do that, the level rises, and that's really what we're trying to do right there. You want to have as many kids want to be goaltenders, no matter what level they end up playing to or aspiring to, but then when you have more kids to draw from, that should be better from a competitive standpoint, and ultimately you'll have more goaltenders at the top level as a result. It's about the grassroots. It always starts there. There really are no shortcuts, right down to might. They've made the modifications to the cross-ice and half-ice nets, so they're right sized from that standpoint. They have the new equipment that fits over the skater's gear and the jersey with the padding that pulls right over the helmet. So there's no impediment to the coach or the parents to have their kids get involved in being goaltenders. And then from there, you're right. You just want to make sure that the kids keep playing the position and that they develop and foster a love for it. Just get them out there and show them. You got to break down the barriers, not just for the kids and for the parents, but for the coaches too. Kind of demystify it a little bit. Oh, what am I going to? I don't know anything about goaltending. You probably know more than you think about it. You don't have to modify your drills that much. That's what we're going to be in the rinks, trying to show the coaches that they're part of your team, and you can make them part of your team more seamlessly than maybe you think. You want to coach the coaches. You want to make sure that if they have goalie coaches, that they're letting the kids discover the position, not being overly critical, all those kinds of things, giving them some kind of standardized, just here's a template to work from, and then you can modify drills, and you're teaching some of the goaltending concepts in the normal course of your regular practice. It's at the association level. If you're in the rink and you have an interest, we'll be there. It's all about ground, people on the ground, feet on the ground, skates on the ice. The thing about USA Hockey, it's always been about the volunteers. We're there to help you and support you. That's what we're trying to do.
So that really, in a nutshell, ends the presentation. Is there any questions or anything as far as directionally where we're going? There's Darren's cell phone number, mine as well. Certainly feel free to jot those down, send us an email, text, whatever. Get a hold of us if it's something you're interested in doing. I am excited about the pond hockey, the Red Wing pond hockey thing. We're going to see how that pulls off this year. I think we have a really golden opportunity to sort of exploit that new arena down there as people get excited about getting into that building and seeing what it's all about. So I think you will get some decent traction on kids wanting to come down there and parents wanting to get involved early on in that pond hockey with the Red Wings. I think it'll be exciting, and we're always looking for creative ways to try to introduce boys and girls to this position, and it's not always easy. But I think we're certainly open to ideas, and if you have an idea in your head, we certainly would love to hear it if it's something you think that would float out there to help generate some of those, getting kids in equipment. The Quick Change program has been a very successful program to get kids in and out of that equipment quickly and let them experience it. I think one of the positive things I've seen happen over the past few years is, and this is always room for debate, is that I think there was a while at Maha and in USA Hockey that we were kind of steering away kids from goaltending a little bit, where it's like, let them sort of develop and find the game and let them skate out. I've been doing this for 26 years, and I haven't figured out why a kid wants to be a goalie yet. I really don't know. Everybody has different reasons. Some it's the equipment, some it's the excitement of having the pressure of being that guy or that girl. I don't know. And I've always been the person that maybe we need to foster some of that. I don't know why a kid wants to be the quarterback or the pitcher either sometimes, because those are high-pressure positions. But I think we've sort of turned a table in the last maybe 5 or 8 years where we're getting back to maybe it's okay for that kid to experience that position. I know that maybe goes against the grain of what some people say about specializing in positions early. I get that. But I started playing goalie when I was 5 years old. I played 1 year out, and I played ever since. I don't know why. I just attracted to the position, and I loved it, and that's what I wanted to do. And so I would hope that we get back to fostering that type of idea where if that's what he wants to do or she wants to do, let's do it. Okay, let him go with it. We'll figure out later, I guess, whether that's right or wrong by the experts. But to me, we got away from pushing kids, not pushing, that's the wrong word, but letting kids get into that position and sort of maybe specialize. We kind of got into that idea that they're specializing too early, we shouldn't do this. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't agree with it. I said, let them go, let them do it. Because you'll find a lot of these kids do it for 10, 12, 20, 30 years they play this position. So don't know why, but they do. So anybody, questions, comments, issues, concerns, something that you've seen out there in the last year that you think is important?
One thing I think we need to get associations to start making, getting them to be a little more proactive so that, goalie parents, obviously they're discouraged about the cost and everything, so associations can, somehow lower the price. Either help out with getting goalie equipment or trying to get used equipment, whatever they can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great comment. I've been really sort of waiting for, and I talk about this sort of tongue-in-cheek, where I'm waiting for, and I don't know if this is the right road to go down, but where teams actually start baking into some of their costs to help offset some of the costs for the goalies. I mean, it is, if you go out and price some of this equipment, obviously the younger levels, the squirt speed, there's enough equipment out there generally, and the cost isn't really outlandish. But when you start getting into the Pee Wee Bantam level, you can really start to jack into $2,500, $3,500 worth of cost today, and in addition to ice fees, and I think it's certainly an issue that I think keeps some of the parents and players or goalies out of the game. It's clear to me there is. Not for everybody. For parents that can flip those bills, great, but not everybody can do that. And so I'm sort of waiting for the day that a coach goes, how do we help offset that with the rest of the team? Because listen, again, if you don't have goalies, this game's going to be. I'm waiting for the day, and I hope this never happens, that we show up to a rink and we're really putting two goalie tutor shooters up and going, this is the game we have. This is it. We're shooting on tutor shooters because we don't have goalies to play. I dread that day where we're showing up at rinks and we don't have enough goalies. I don't think we're there yet, and I think we're actually on the opposite side of that now, where there was a lull here. Certainly during the 2008 and beyond, you're starting to hit those birth years of those kids when the economy went down. Everybody knows this. And I think we're coming kind of back out of that again now, which is good. But we're starting to see some of that economic trend in goaltending, And so we're sort of pushing through that, and I think we're on the other side of that now with getting, more younger kids back involved again and so forth, and as things improve out there. But it's something to consider. It's something for your association or your teams to sit down and go, how can we help negate some of the cost, not all of the cost, but help negate some of it. But that's again just coming from me. Some people will say that's not fair. Everybody else has expenses. The kid chose to play the position. All those type of things you're going to get feedback on. So, but.
The other thing is, we can get our coaches to kind of step up, especially younger coaches. They're worried about the 15 kids on the ice and not always concerned about the one goalie. And parents can figure that out. And I think the associations, they're starting to take maybe a little bit more, make more of an effort, but maybe they need to get a goalie coach for the association and start working with these younger kids, because they're going to get discouraged, because really they're working on pretty much skills for the forwards and D, and all the goalie is just somebody to stop the pucks.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it's, if I always say that if you and I were to start a baseball team together, we would start with saying we need a pitching coach, So it's funny how other sports, if we started a football team together, we'd say, well, we need somebody to coach the quarterback in the backfield, you know? And you get into this hockey business, and it's like, we're going to start a hockey team, and sort of like the goalie's kind of the last guy. That's like, so to me, it's like, think about it from that vantage point. I mean, it's like a pitcher in baseball or a quarterback. You know, he's a pretty important person on your team, or she's a pretty important gal on your team, and we need to have some of that. I think a little bit it goes a long way for parents, actually, if they know that you're paying attention and you're giving them some guidance, and specializing a coach and assistant coach just to spend some time with those goalies. I think a lot of times you'll quell some of those parents' concerns if you get some attention, you know, spent on that kid. It doesn't have to be way over the top and big budget and spending all kinds of money, but it can go a long way just to have some focus on them at every practice. So, yeah.
We are extremely lucky where we're at. We have 3 coaches that were goalies.
Great.
And we started 3 years ago. We started a 45-minute ice slot for goalie nights.
Yep.
And it's drop-in goalie night, and we break them up. We have the high school, the JV, and the varsity goalies come out and dress, and the little kids think that's cool, and we bring the quick change sets out. And we've gone from having maybe 6 show up a night to last year we had almost 15 kids dressing as goalies.
Yeah, I think it's
we ran out of used equipment when people were borrowing, borrowing gloves and stuff. And it's been a huge success. Again, we're very lucky that we had those, but then also we found the coaches for some of the teams started coming out and watching the drills that the goalie coaches were doing, and then taking those back to practice because they don't always know what to do with them either.
Exactly. And I think you're seeing a trend where more and more associations, and I know a few of them in the room, and some that I work with are, carving out some time every couple times a month. And that's all you really need, really, is like 1 or 2 times a month to kind of give that hour and a half of ice time, do that association for goalie sessions. And a lot of times it's really a lot of what the kids need and the parents need just to feel like they're getting attention. So I know I get it, ice is expensive, it's tough, I get the scheduling's tough, rinks have a lot of, time management issues with getting those ice times, but I'm seeing more associations realize that if they put a program together once or twice a month for goalies, it goes a long way. It really does. And then certainly bringing those high school kids in, they all have to earn, most of them have to earn, community service type of programs. So they're always willing to come and help and step up and earn some community service points for their teams and things like that. Brad, did you have something?
Yeah, when we keep on, this is one of the things we come to these meetings, it keeps on saying, what can associations do to create these things? But how about we reverse it? What can MAHA do to help us? And in rare instances, can there be exceptions for, out-of-district players for the travel teams if you're, you need an extra goalie and you find out there's a surplus in one area where you're, you only got 3 out-of-district, and let's say, some of the bordering rinks around, you've given those teams up, and so you lose a goalie, and you don't have one, and you find out there's goalies in other districts that are looking for a team, and now you're out of districts. I mean, we keep on saying in all these meetings, what will the association do to grow this? But I think we need help from the outside to help, and maybe there's an exception we can file for, getting goalies out there. I mean, I know at our association, it's going to get to the point pretty soon, like you were saying, it's going to be 100% free for kids that want to play goalie. And the house leagues are going to be given equipment, they can use on an individual basis, because there's so many teams now, and the lack of goalies, where it's going to be like considered like a beer league, where goalies are playing for free. And it's sooner or later. I know a lot of our teams are baking in the cost of goalies, like you said, or our particular team, we make the parents pay, but 100% of their money goes to goaltending, coaching, along with additional money. But there's got to be something to help all these organizations that need goalies build something from MAHA. We can't always create the things ourselves in our own association.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Brad. I think that and this is always a sticky issue, because I think we may be at an era where we might have to look at some double rostering, and I know that's always an issue, but instead of always saying at the grassroots level you're going to grow this, and this is more organic. This is going to take time, and you're going to have to, some of it's going to work, some of it might not work, and you might help grow the position, but let's be honest about what this is an organic growth process, In the interim, you might have to come up with some ideas to be able to get you through the hump where you have, and I actually, before this meeting, asked, do we have data on where the goalie needs are at? Like, I'm just going to pick this out of the air, and it's just me. What's the downriver situation with goalies? How many goalies do we have in those associations down? In other words, where's the real need at? I don't know. I mean, I know every association has issues with goaltending for the most part, but there has to be some that have bigger issues or even more issues than other associations. So I mean, but I don't have that data. Nobody has that data. And one of the things that actually has come up here in the last day is, maybe one of the things the associations need to do is get an actual list of what do you have in goalies. I have no idea how many goalies are in your association, Brad. I don't know where your needs at.
Well, it's either feast or famine each year. You have too many, you don't have any. And like I said, I'm going back to my point, but Tier 1 has no out of districts, and that's where it blows my mind that some of these parents, and I'll use our team for instance, one of my son's teams, there is a goalie that is willing to go sit on a Tier 1 team, be a second goalie at the squirt level, guaranteed only to play 8 games, left us with 0 goalies. So if they can have as many out of districts, there's no out of districts, that's what I'm saying. There needs to be some help in that position only. That we need some help for associations.
And I agree with you on one hand, but to play the devil's advocate, my fear is, and I don't want to be contradictory here, but my fear is that if you allow out-of-district goaltending, then that just becomes the Band-Aid. And so then we really don't attract.
No, that's what I'm saying, like an exemption. It's ridiculous that our tryouts are in May anyways, but. So we offer up I'm just using my personal experience, one of our teams, the team offered up 3 out-of-district positions, which is very rare to fill them all. But then the goalie leaves your team. So now it's hard enough to find a goalie. And you're limited to only your own district and your own area. So that's what I'm saying, maybe there's something in those situations, and you can, it can get approved or not approved, where we can file an exemption for that situation. Because yeah, we could have brought on a goalie from our districts and tell some little 10-year-old boy, oh, sorry, you're the least talented of the 3 out of districts. We're going to kick you off our team. I mean, who wants to do that to a little kid?
And I think, to your point, Brad, this is an organization of rules, and the only way that something like that's going to happen is to be able to present it, go through the arduous process, if you will, sometimes of getting that on the docket to be able to get that as a conversation piece. There is a little bit of a nice... a little bit coming along with the goalies, a rule at this weekend's symposium that will help a little bit with some of the goalies being able to move due to sickness and injury. That's always been an issue for years, where I've got a goalie that's sick or injured during the season, and we run into this problem all the time where what am I supposed to do? I only got one goalie, and so there is a rule, and you've probably seen it, or I think we're starting to see a little bit of a crack in the armor here about helping that. But I mean, I'm with you, Brad. I mean, we're going to have to be able to get through this, hopefully, get through this process of, because I think we do have a lull. I'll be honest with you, and people who know me have been doing this for a long time, and if Mark Biggins is here, he knows this. I sat in meetings and stood, on the chair screaming from the top of my lungs about the ADM model not allowing goalies. They very much squashed the goalie circles. And I sat there and said, you guys are going to hurt goaltending if you don't allow these kids to get into it. And they're like, yeah, you know what, we have all these European experts. We know everything. I don't want to get on a soapbox here. And I'm like, I'm going to beg to differ with you, okay? I said it earlier. I don't know why kids get into it, but if you're going to squash them from doing it, you're going to run into a goalie problem in 4 or 5 years from now, trust me. And everyone looked at me like a deer in headlights, and lo and behold, I'm like, that's what you did. Now, to their credit, they finally kind of woke up and said, okay, let's get goalies involved. Let's, redo the nets. And, I think they saw the problem pretty quickly. But to be honest with you, there were 3 or 4 years they went where there was not a lot of goaltending going on at the ADM level, okay, at the early onset levels. And they kind of pushed kids away from it. And in some way, we've got a little bit of tail effect of that happening right now. Now, I think it's going to get better because I think we kind of got back into it again and realized, okay, let's not ignore that position or ignore that idea, but we've got a little bit of a donut hole that we're going through with goalies right now. It's hard to say, but the truth is, Brett, I don't know the numbers. I mean, we kind of need to know what we have out there, and I think in doing this and helping Maha, and it's what I talked with Darren about, is listen, you know, if we're going to move this program around to different associations, I think we do need to target some of the associations that maybe need the most help with trying to foster some of the goalies into those associations. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, I'm sure everybody has this issue, but some may have it more than others. And so without those numbers, though, it's difficult to go, yeah, we need to go downriver more. We need to go to the UP once or twice. We need to go to Traverse City. We need to go to, you know, Saginaw or to Grand Rapids or whatever the case might be. So, yeah.
Yeah, we started tracking goalies last year, so I'm sure within the next year or so, we ask all the teams to designate who their goalies are, so we can start building that data for goalies, so the information will be there.
That'd be perfect.
And as far as his thing about goalie, we do have rules in place that allow on the B side for kids to play on 2 teams when you're short goalies, but there are ways that you can get around asking for goalies, and exception is one of them. So those things are there for people to take advantage of.
Anybody else? Yes.
I was wondering, a lot of my coaches don't have the knowledge of the goalie position. So I would think that beneficial to us would be if you had coaching clinics specific to goalie techniques. You know, they have people shooting on them, but they don't teach them the technique. And so the goalie's, you know, normally bored because the coaches are worried about the other kids on the ice. So I think if we could see something like that happen, where I could send my coaches to be trained a little bit better.
And I think that that's I think what we alluded to in here, by when we go out to do those on-ice goalie things at various associations, we can also dovetail that with actual clinics for those coaches to come and ask for those local association coaches to get involved in being able to not only be on the ice with us, but also maybe sit in a classroom, if you will, and go through some ideas and concepts. I know that, I don't know if I touched on it here, but one of the, and I don't even know if USA Hockey, maybe somebody can help me out. I was told that USA Hockey is putting a goalie coaching program together. Does anybody know more about it? Because yeah.
So they've been talking about it for 2 years, and to the best of my, and I pay attention to this, they haven't done a darn thing. Hockey Canada actually has a goalie coach certification program, but it's only been in place 1 year.
Right.
So, you know,
I think it's an opportunity for us to get involved in it, though, where it maybe not have to be a mandated, you know, you've got to now go through goalie certification if you're going to coach. I think we get enough of that. But for those individuals that would volunteer their time to want to go to a symposium and get a certification, I'm all on board with that, and I'll help develop it along with others, like-minded people like yourself. And I think, you know, Canada has developed that. They've recognized long before we did there was a problem with their goalie coaching situation up there. And they've tried to institute. I don't know how successful they are with it up there, to be honest with you.
Well, I don't think they know yet either. So another thing I know, because I've been online, there's an annual goalie coach symposium in Madison, Wisconsin in May. They get like 300 coaches. Yeah. There's one in Boston, and I think they get about 200 coaches. So they're out there, but who, you know, is a sport hockey coach is going to spend $1,000? We need something like that in Michigan.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm more involved in the board. I've only been on the board for a year, and so I'm getting more involved in trying to bring my whatever limited expertise and knowledge to this position, if you will, but and certainly team up with guys like Darren and getting that kind of a little bit of a face behind it as well. And I think if you look at things like what's happening in Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh Penguins, they've gotten very, very behind their goalie programs in the state of Pittsburgh. They sponsor a lot of goalie programs coming right down from the NHL level. And I've asked Darren said, you know, Darren, the Red Wings need to be involved in this. We need their name. We need the ability to be able to attract kids. Not because we're trying to get everybody to the NHL. That's not my point. My point is it draws people, right? I mean, I can assure you that, I can almost guarantee you that when we do these pond hockey things and we have kids coming down to that new rink to skate, there are going to be some interest there just to come down there from the curiosity standpoint. I know there will be. So I think it's an exciting idea to capitalize on that right now in getting kids down to that new rink and experience it. And so those are the things I'm trying to get Darren to say, hey, the Red Wings need to get on board with this because they have a vested interest, maybe long-term and with certain players, obviously. And I think he agrees. He actually, I was surprised to hear he wants the Red Wings to be more involved in this at the NHL level and knows how this trickle-down effect works all the way down to a Squirt and Mike goalie, or players for that matter. So I'm excited that we have him on board, and I think we can continue to leverage that relationship.
Just the thing about stuff like in Detroit and about the goalies and stuff, it needs to be not during hockey season, because my son's a goalie, he's a straight A student, trying to make a trip to Detroit plus the normal hockey stuff wouldn't work.
And I think that's what Darren experienced last year. And I kind of, to be honest with you, I warned him of the same thing. It's very tough to do this on a Saturday in November, December, January, when you have kids doing practices, going to games. They've got a lot of time commitment already outside of doing this, which makes it challenging. You know, I'll be honest with you that, and it kind of tells you where the sort of the goalie circles, I think things are changing for the positive, but it's always been, yeah, well, we'll throw you on a 6 o'clock skate on Sunday morning. You know, that's kind of the way, to be frank about it, the goalies sort of get treated. Like, and surprisingly enough, there's a lot of kids that are dedicated to that position. They get up at 5 o'clock, and parents do get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to those type of camps. But I'm like, maybe we can sit down and work with it that maybe it is on a Monday at 7 o'clock when things are a little bit more conducive to having that type of training where people can come. So you're trying to shift the paradigm a little bit about, if you want to have goalies and build this network and circle, maybe you got to put your guard down about when you're actually having these to try to answer your question there. You know, and we kind of got to start thinking a little bit outside the box about time management on how we're dealing with these kids, because that's exactly what Darren experienced. And I kind of knew last year when I came to the meeting last year. I never talked to Darren at all after the meeting last year. I said, okay, good luck, have fun with it. And if he was here, he'd tell you that. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I know he would tell you the same thing. You get a lot of excitement in September when everybody's still kind of formulating teams and practices, and we really don't have a lot of games going on. And then it just kind of falls right off the cliff come November, December, January, February, because everybody's so busy. So we need to put our collective heads together and find out, and it goes to your association, when is that time conducive? I've always lobbied for Monday at 7 o'clock. You know, there's not a whole lot of hockey, believe it or not. If you go around the hockey rinks on Mondays, and this isn't for everybody, but, you know, you've had a weekend tournament, whatever, you know, there's not a lot of stuff going on Mondays. But what association's willing to give up prime ice at 7 o'clock on a Monday? Probably none of you are. So I'm like, well, then you get what you get, you know. So I get the money side of it, and I get the time management side of it, but until we sort of break down those barriers, we're kind of right back to the 6 a.m. Sunday morning stuff. And so it's tough. It's tough. But we all have a vested interest in this, because you're not going to want to go to a game and have your son or daughter player show up, and trust me, I've been there. You've all been there. The goalie's sick or nobody showed up. It's not fun. Everybody's kind of looking at it like a deer in headlights type of look when they don't show up. And I dread those days. And I think to Brad's point, what he's saying is, you lose a kid, what are you going to do, Brad? You got a game this week or whatever? You know, you're like, it's tough, you know, and you're scrambling. So, but it's going to take work. This is a little bit more of a, like I said earlier, a grassroots, you know, organic method to try to help get kids into it, and it's going to take time. But I think this is a good start to try to break down some of those barriers, some of those stereotypes, some of what we maybe need to look at this a little bit differently, ideas like Brad, or moving some times around to make it more conducive. So. Yeah.
From the USA Hockey National Office, for any associations that use Club Excellence, we just added a goalie development coordinator position. So it gives a job description, tasks, and all the resources, so that if you want to put someone in charge of goaltenders on your board, it's got a little resource center for them right there.
So I'll certainly stick around if anybody wants to, you know, approach it or whatever. Part of this was sort of trying to get you engaged. I know all of you obviously you're here and you already are engaged heavily. But if you have an interest in this side of it, in the goaltending and working with us, that would be great. And we're certainly open to those ideas and welcome your participation. So sorry the videos didn't work. That's not on me.